Welcome to the Slow Smoked Pigskin podcast. I'm Darren.
And I mean Drew. And this is
our podcast.
What are you doing? You're not Aaron.
You're not Drew.
I think we should go.
That was weird, right?
Yeah, it was.
Anyways, I'm Aaron,
I'm Drew.
and this is our podcast.
Subscribe.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the premiere of Season 2 of the Slow Smoke Pigskin podcast. We're in a new season. I'm Aaron.
This is Drew. We made it.
We arbitrarily chose that this is Season 2 to an extent. I mean, it is the second season we're doing it, so it sort of makes sense, but...
It just didn't make sense to do Season 2 at a year because it was like December when we started this.
Well, yeah, and we kind of started at season, like, 3/4 because we did it at, like, the end of last year and then just did a whole lot over the summer. All right, anyways, so, first up, we got some more additions to the bet board. If you look right there, you can't read them because my camera's not good enough, but there's 2 new bets. And those are Raph versus Jason for an up to $50 bottle. Knowing the 2 of them, that will be tequila. And then we've got another bet, Raph versus Joe for a $75 bottle. That could start talking some bourbon, knowing those 2. Or whiskey. You know, I know Raph likes his Macallan. They said it's for overall record, which still, I don't know what that means. Maybe we'll figure that out eventually and we'll clarify. But the bet's on the board. It is tracked. It is official.
It's official.
All right. So week 1 happened finally. It was very exciting to have football on my TV, and I was going to do some stuff on Sunday and then didn't, and I got to watch a lot of football, and it made me very happy. It was also cool having, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. Like, I'm good with it.
I got to watch like half of all the some of the games.
No, that's a bummer.
I worked here and there, and then softball on Sundays kind of bleeds into the beginning. I had to work Sunday night. I had to sleep.
Yeah,
but
Skylar had golf on Sunday, like at 2:00. She's got 1 hour of golf, and it's just the worst time. 2 to 3 on Sunday afternoon. It's horrible.
Worst.
Anyways, all right. So our weekly winner for this week was our new Aussie manager, Mr. Adrian Biggs, with a total of 172.15 points. Now, that's a good week. He was only projected for 120.1, which means he almost 50% overproduced what he was supposed to. I like some of the reports Sleeper gives you. It mentioned that his max score, had he set the perfect lineup based on his team, would have been 191.2. Well, guess what? If I knew how to set a damn lineup, I would have scored 207.51. But it doesn't matter because I didn't do it. So, Adrian, congratulations on winning week 1.
Yeah. Congratulations, Adrian. Thanks for joining. Beginner's luck.
Yeah.
League beginner's luck. He's been doing this a while, we know.
Yeah, well, I mean, Josh has got to be so mad right now. He's like, yeah, this guy gets the team that wins week 1, and I got a team that did nothing.
Yeah.
So Josh has got more of a challenge ahead of him. But then again, Adrian's team's got a lot of old.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, well, Adrian's team's got a lot of old, so we'll see what happens in the Dynasty League.
We'll see. I mean, it's week 1. Like I texted you like my annual. Usually it's more sort of towards the end of the league.
Yeah.
But I hate fantasy football already.
Yeah, like week 1 wasn't even over yet, and I'm already getting that from you. You know, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
All right, so our matchups for this week. First one, I'm going in the order that Sleeper showed them for me. I'll try and mix it up so I'm not always first, okay? In the
you
future.
can always be first. It's okay.
All right, so my week 1 matchup was me versus Eddie. I had a total of 166.51 points to Eddie's 85.15. So almost doubled him up. Didn't quite make it. That's a real bummer.
It was like a preseason game for you. Like you didn't have a choice but to win.
Yeah, well, now Eddie's trying to make a bet of He wants to find somebody to bet if he'll score 103 times this year. Eddie was led by Kyle Pitts at 10.10 and Jamal Williams at 12.4. And when those are the two names leading your team, it's not a good sign.
No.
That being said, Kyle Pitts was actually, I think, like a top 5 tight end this week with 10.10 points. It was a rough week, especially for like all the high-end tight ends. Like none of them did anything.
No, I mean, in a couple other leagues I've got Laporta, and it was just like,
Ooh,
come
rough.
on.
Laporta was rough. Andrews was rough.
Yes.
We'll get to a bunch of those.
Yes.
All right. I got led by Joe Mixon with a beautiful 25.3 points. I was intrigued to see what happened with Mixon on the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap, if they give him this workload every week, that's going to be crazy. Yeah. And then Dallas defense put up 24.48 points, which seems like a whole lot for a defense until we get to some of the ones that we'll talk about in a little bit. People who killed us, Eddie, 0.9 fantasy points from Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, let's hope that was just rookie game 1 because there's a whole lot of high hopes for him, and that's a bad start.
Yeah. Murray had one chance to get him a 30-yard touchdown pass and didn't see him or whatever. But one of the rookies that didn't really do anything in his season debut. Yeah. But I've got to believe he's a first rounder.
I think he'll bounce back. I don't think this will be all year, but it's definitely a less than ideal start for him.
Correct.
On my team, Travis Kelce, once again, we're talking about tight ends, 4.9 points. That's a little rough. And then Dak only had 10.46, which seems really bad, but that game script didn't call for it. Now, fantasy-wise, not good for me at all, but they didn't need it, right? They had a defense, they had a punt return touchdown. That game was never close. He didn't need to throw that much. That being said, before the game, I forgot to mention, the Cowboys finally freaking paid him. Why did they?
Highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
$240 million over 6 years with 231 of it guaranteed. I guess he had said he wanted his annual to start with a 6, and he wanted to have the highest guaranteed money, so he just beat out Deshaun Watson by $1 million.
Which is crazy, like Deshaun Watson.
Oh, so bad. Yeah, I mean, the guy he played against and Deshaun Watson looks so bad. Like,
right.
By the way, he's got another lawsuit against him. It's apparently in the same time frame. It's not a new one, but it's a new. Yeah. Anyways, so that whatever. Continuing with our matchup, bench heroes, dude. I had Jordan Mason with 21.7, Jaden Reed with 31.1, and Brandon Aubrey, the kicker, with 21 points on my bench. So that's how I could have got up to 200. I mean, 70 points from those 3 players on my bench. Pretty crazy. Eddie could have had an extra 14.2 from Alexander Madison.
Who got to put him over 100?
No, I don't think quite.
Just under.
Yep, still would have been just under. Well, especially because whoever he would have had a couple of points, but nope, not quite. And then to add insult to injury for both of us, Eddie started Jordan Love, who, 20 seconds left in the game, got his knee jacked. Actually, I didn't think it was a knee at first. I thought it was an ankle, but then he's got an MCL sprain, looking like he's likely out 3 to 6, 3 to 4. I keep hearing different numbers. And then I heard today that he's not completely ruled out yet. It's like,
watching it live and replay right away, it looked like his ankle got rolled up on.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch it in slow mo, and they've got this whole knee pop.
You saw kind of a pop in the knee.
It doesn't look like a sprain.
We'll see what happens.
He's going to be out. They're not going to rush him back.
I would hope not. Except they got to count on Malik Willis if they don't. So maybe they will.
I mean, you chalk up an 0-3 start, 0-4 start, and then try to roll the dice. There's no reason to bring him back. Why would you hurt your franchise quarterback?
Yeah.
Just to rush him back to possibly if there's an injury there, obviously, and he's more susceptible to further injury if you put him back out there.
And then another MCL sprain and or bone bruise for Jake Ferguson. who's looking like week to week. I've heard he might play this week. Who knows? Let's go to a slightly better matchup. Neil versus Raf. Raf pulled out the victory, 126.14 to Neil's 111.86. Neil, who, I traded that pick to him, and I sure regret it that he got Devon Achane with 19.5 points. And then New Orleans defense, which if you watch that game, God, it was miserable. I actually am shocked they only scored 20.18 fantasy points. Oh, but by the way, Raf said, hold my beer. I've got Chicago's defense who's going to score 30.07 points. 30 points from the defense.
Chicago won, and if I remember correctly, the defense was the only part of the team that scored points.
A touchdown, because there was field goals.
Who scored the touchdown?
No, the offense didn't score a touchdown. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm saying only the defense scored touchdowns. The offense got field goals.
Oh,
Caleb Williams, I think, threw for 93 yards, if I remember correctly, which is the lowest total for a first-round rookie quarterback in, a long time. They won the game, but Caleb, it wasn't because of Caleb.
Correct. However, the same way that you're talking about Dak and how the game didn't call for him to pass the ball, all he was doing was managing the game.
But at the same time, I think he was 14 for 29 or something like that.
Oh, was it that bad?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. He didn't have yards, and he had a horrible completion percentage too. So it's not just small performance.
Right.
Busts. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, who didn't show up for Neil with 7.06 points, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown with 3.8. That one was a shocker to me. Jameson Williams, we'll get to him in a bit. He had a huge day, but Amon-Ra with 3.8. I think he only had 3 targets or something like that. Whoa, that's a shocker. And then,
but it's also when you're coming out of the first game of the season, you got to think that these defenses have had the entire offseason to prepare for this game. So what do you think that they're going to do? They're going to double team. They're going to I didn't get to watch the game, so I don't know how it went, but it's week 1. But in a redraft league, he's a top 5, top 6 pick that's getting you 3 points. It's devastating when it comes to fantasy.
Yeah. And then on Ralph's side, Drake London put up 2.5. The Falcons offense did not look good. With all the expectations, Kirk Cousins did not look like he could move. Everybody's been calling for the Drake London move. Yeah. Everyone been calling for the Drake London breakout, and that didn't happen. And then Raheem Mostert, who now turns out is injured and apparently not playing the next game against the Bills, only had 2.9 points. So that's not good. And then bench heroes for these guys, Jaden Daniels. If Neil had started Jaden Daniels instead of Joe Burrow, he would have had 25.16 points. That might have made this matchup real close.
Yep.
And then Alan Lazard for Raf with 23.9 fantasy points on 2 touchdowns. Let's not count on that one happening again.
Although it's the Green Bay connection. Is that
Mike
just
Williams?
Is that chemistry?
No, I think when Mike Williams is back, Lazard's on the bench.
You're probably right. So, not if maybe.
Yeah.
You can't either way. You can't start Lazard.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so matchup 3 involved our week winner Adrian versus Jason Freeman, 172.15 to 125.5. Jason Freeman actually had a couple of good performers on his team. Chris Godwin showed up this year. That was a good start for the Bucks. Chris Godwin with 18.3 fantasy points. Kenneth Walker with 17.9. I know he had a little Walker had a little abdomen injury at the end, but I don't think it's supposed to keep him out of anything.
No, but I think he did miss. He didn't suit up for practice today, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay, I missed that one.
I'd have to look, but I think that he was a no-show at practice.
All right, fair enough. And then Adrian,
but it doesn't seem like he's going to miss time right now.
Right, exactly, agreed. Adrian led by a whole slew of people. I threw a whole bunch on here. Lamar Jackson, 25.12. Cooper Kupp, 25. Mike Evans, 20.6. And Stephon Diggs with 18.9.
That's the one that surprises.
That one surprises, but that is 18.9 fantasy points with 2 touchdowns, which means he didn't have a whole lot of catches. He didn't have a whole lot of yardage. It seemed like Stephon Diggs was getting the little slants. Nico Collins had a big day. Tank Dell had a disappointing fantasy performance, but at the same time, he got a lot of air yards, and I think it's really going to be in this team. You just never know who you're going to get each week, especially Diggs, Dell, Collins, Mixon. Like, they've got weapons. I know.
Hope that one of them gets hurt and it's not the one that you have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ironically, Adrian had Dalton Schultz as his starting tight end, who's also on the team. So he was his bust at 3.1 points, but with 4 other people over 19, he was okay. And then Jason Freeman, Christian Kirk, 3.5 fantasy points, which was 1 catch for 30 yards. That wasn't great. And then, like you mentioned, Sam Laporta, 6.5 points. Like, disappointing week for high-end tight ends this week.
Yep.
I mean, number one tight end on the week was Isaiah Likely, who nobody started. And number 2, I believe, was Foster Moreau. So,
that sounds right.
Yeah. Bench heroes, Chigakonkwo did score 10.5 fantasy points because he got a touchdown. Who thought we were ever going to talk about Chigakonkwo again?
He needs to be in his fantasy name somehow.
Yeah, exactly. And then 19.8 fantasy points on the bench for Adrian from Xavier Worthy. That was another I don't know if this is things to come or what, but he obviously made I think he ran a touchdown and then caught one. So I know the kid's fast.
I don't think they were prepared for that speed.
Yeah,
like I think he caught the ball behind the line of scrimmage and ran 30 yards and didn't get touched.
I didn't see the actual play, but I believe it. That dude's fast.
It was ridiculous how fast he got there, and it was just like, oh, okay. But then
injuries affecting them. Nothing for Adrian that I saw. Russell Wilson could have been a player for Jason, but he's out. Looks like it might be another week. At first, I heard people making comments about how douchey it must have been that Russell Wilson was out for the week and inactive, yet he was still wearing a jersey. Yeah. And he was the emergency quarterback. Because you know how there's a third emergency quarterback? So he was listed as the emergency quarterback. So it wasn't quite as douchey Russell Wilson as I thought it could have been.
Still.
Yeah, still. All right.
You can't play.
Yeah. Matchup 4. Jason Smith lost to Steve by 20 points, 116.48 to 136.23. But Jason also got a 0 from CMC because I talked to him. He was busy working, and the news came late that CMC was going to be out. Nobody really saw that one coming, except now it looks like it might have been a big lie, and Jordan Mason made some comments that he might have known on Friday.
But is that
yes?
There's something between unethical and there's something between illegal. So what's I don't even know what the actual rule is. Like, he was listed as questionable the whole time.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, Jason got 31.18 points from Josh Allen, who was, I think, QB, depending on the scoring system, 1 or 2 on the week because of Baker's big day. And then
2. I think he was 2.
Either way, and then Jason's second best scorer was TJ Edwards, his IDP, with 17.5 points. Wow. Steve got led by the pair of Eagles, Saquon and AJ Brown, combining for over 50 points. I can't really talk because I have that pair in a different league, and I did not mind it this week. Another bust for Jason was Amari Cooper with 2.6 fantasy points. Cooper dropped an easy touchdown that could have helped his fantasy day a lot, and then Steve got let down by DK Metcalf, who only had 4.4. Trey McBride with only 5.5. Like I said, top end, all these early drafted tight ends had a bad day.
Yeah.
So this was like the weekend of freaking kickers and defenses. Right. Chris Boswell was on Jason's bench with 26 points. And then Steve on his bench had Baker Mayfield with 29.66 and Isaiah Likely with 21.6, like we mentioned, the leading tight end of the week. Injuries to worry about. CMC is now being said that it's Achilles tendonitis. He may miss at least one more week. This is a story to be watched. I mean, It just sucks when you get the first pick in the draft. Well, this is Dynasty, but in redraft, you got the first pick in the draft and you guys have played week one. That hurts.
When you're going into Monday night and you're only down 30 points, like you feel pretty good with CMC there.
Yeah, right. That's rough. And then Josh Allen seemed to have an injury to his non-throwing hand. They had to tape it up and whatnot. I don't think it's going to affect anything. It's not normally a big deal if a quarterback has a non-throwing hand injury, except for the fact that he runs so much that he's got to tuck the ball. So it could affect him more than some people.
Which I think it happened on the dive into the end zone. I don't know if you've seen that play or not, but he jumped over a defender and got hit at the same time and fell down. Got the touchdown, but I get you need the points, but you gotta think of the long picture here.
Yep.
I don't expect Baker to do that every week in and week out. Although I think likely that could be could be hey, maybe.
Okay, so Baker Mayfield, I think that the Washington defense is just that bad. Is part of it. Like they played the Commanders defense, which is just terrible. Number one. Isaiah Likely, I was listening to a podcast. They were talking about they watched the tape of Mark Andrews. And when you watched, Mark Andrews always had two people on him at least, like the whole damn game.
Oh, okay.
So it was talking about, was this real for Likely? And was this, the decline of Mark Andrews? Well, Andrews was double covered all the time. And the play after Likely got hurt at the end where they thought he was out before he came back for that almost touchdown pass he caught, the play in between, they had three people on Andrews in the end zone. So there's a chance Isaiah Likely is a real thing. Like, absolutely. He's super athletic, super talented. But I also don't think Mark Andrews is as dead as some people want to make him.
No. I'm not. I'm just going with I think that they found a third option in that offense.
Yeah.
Passing offense. And he could be like a big wide receiver. He's not going to blow past you going down the field, but he's definitely an option, and that's something you might want to look into.
If they go to 12 personnel running two tight ends all the time, absolutely.
Because they're going to they're going to try to run the ball and they're going to disguise it.
Yep. All right, next matchup: Drew versus Joe.
We can skip it. We don't need to talk about it.
Drew 107.53, Joe 136.96. Drew led by Brian Robinson with 16.4, Rasheed Rice with 14.8. Joe got led by Anthony Richardson 27.08. Anthony Richardson and Jane Daniels, by the way, both those guys, not great NFL days, great fantasy days because of the running. Like, that's what you got to realize is different sometimes.
Yeah.
And then also Alvin Kamara for Joe with 19.5 points. Busts, Drew got 0.6 points out of Rome Odunze, who then now has a grade 1 knee sprain. And then
he's on the trade block, everybody. He's on the trade block, okay?
Yeah, there you go. And then I'll trade you for him. Absolutely. What do you want? I'll give you like a third.
I want what I paid for him.
A third? Okay.
Not gonna happen.
And then Brandon Ayuk absolutely dropped the touchdown pass that he should have caught. Ended up with 3.8 points. Hey, guess what? Not being in camp all year matters.
It does.
Joe got disappointed. Ironically, Joe got disappointed by a lot of people. He's just lucky some of them were on the bench. I just want to mention a bunch of these players. Chris Olave 2.1 points. David Njoku only had 7.4, but he got injured. It looks like it might be a high ankle sprain, and he could be out for a little bit.
Yeah.
But then on his bench, just some players I wanted to mention. Zamir White only had 3.6 fantasy points when everybody thought he was going to be the workhorse in Vegas. Calvin Ridley, only 6.5. That doesn't look good for the board. Although I think Zay Flowers had like 6.8 or something.
Zay Flowers? No, he had more points than that.
Yeah, go look it up while I keep talking. And Deontay Johnson with 2.9 points when everybody thought that, oh my God, the Panthers look so bad. It was disgusting. Bench hero for Drew, Jamison Williams out of nowhere. Like, don't get me wrong, this isn't me starting to talk about your trade. I don't think anybody saw Jamison Williams leading them week 1 with over 100 yards.
Clearly, I did not because he was not in the starting lineup. But yeah, like that's like I think that could be what he gets if they're going to double team Amon-Ra the whole time.
Yeah, we'll see. And then Joe's bench had J.K. Dobbins, who, after only getting a $50,000 guaranteed contract, J.K. Dobbins came out week 1, put up 21.4. And then Alec Pierce with 20 points, which sounds great, but Alec Pierce is going to be boomer bust. He had 2 long touchdowns. You can't count on that every week. Did you find what Zay Flowers got yet?
What'd you say he had?
6.8?
8.1.
Okay, fine. All right, so you got a little bit of lead on me. We got plenty of time.
But he was targeted a lot, I'm just going to say.
Sure
you didn't get to see the game, but he...
Okay. Yeah. All right. Last matchup of the week, Janelle versus Josh. Janelle, 108.67 versus Josh with 114.36. I'm sorry, this was the crap fest of the week.
Yeah.
This was the one where whoever won was still getting one loss in our league. Janelle was led by James Conner with 17.8 points. Aiden Hutchinson was her second best performer at 12. Josh, on the other hand, only put up 114 points, but over 50 of those 2 were from his kicker and defense. Jake Moody with 26 points and Minnesota with 25. Good job, Josh. You get that win.
That's why we can't get rid of kickers.
Janelle's busts was basically everybody who I didn't just mention on her team. That was those 2. Josh's bust, I already mentioned Mark Andrews, 2.4 points. Ouch. Terry McLaurin, 2.7 points. Ouch. Yeah. Janelle did make some mistakes because she started Patrick Mahomes, and instead Derek Carr was on her bench with 21.3 points, because who didn't know to start Derek Carr over Patrick Mahomes? I mean, come on.
That will never happen until the bye week.
No. And then she had Pittsburgh's defense on the bench who had 13.4 points. Josh didn't have anybody good on the bench. He got pretty much the best he could out of that squad.
His starting lineup is his starting lineup, unfortunately. Yeah. He has a little bit of work to do, but hey, it's doable. We've seen it done.
He won. Injuries. Puka Nacua for Janelle. He's got a PCL sprain being put on IR, which means he will miss at a minimum of 4 weeks. However, a report came out that McVay hinted that it could be longer than 4 weeks. So that's a real bummer.
It's been an ongoing injury all preseason, and I think that it's like they thought that he could not injure it more, and come on, it's a long season. Get him out of there.
Yeah. Jordan Addison also had an ankle injury for Janelle. I don't know the severity of that one. I haven't heard any updates yet personally, but and then Josh, I think Josh had T. Higgins, who got hurt the day or 2 before the game and then ended up not playing, which I don't know. The Bengals, like we mentioned, Joe Burrow's horrible. Jamar Chase missed camp and didn't get a lot of action. And then he complained about not getting the ball, said, "Why didn't you get it?" He said, "Ask my coach." And then T. Higgins didn't play. So,
it's a mess right now over there, apparently. And they looked like they didn't have an off season, which players that were there weren't playing, and players that weren't there were playing. That's exactly what it looked like. So, but you expect them to be better as the season goes on. I don't think this is a forthcoming or anything like that.
That reminds me, how did I not, in all these things that I was talking about, I didn't mention Ramondre Stevenson. Did Adrian just have so many good players that he wasn't in those top ones I said? Oh, no, I just forgot to. Oh, in our scoring settings, Ramondre only had 19.10. Or did I say Ramondre?
No, you didn't.
Okay. Ramondre had another good day as well. So, what does this all mean? That's all the matchups. So, we've got 5 undefeated teams right now. Adrian in first, me in second, Joe in third, Steve in fourth, and Raph in 5th place. Hey, guess what? Next week, 4 of those 5 teams are playing each other. So that means after this week, after week 2, we will only have a maximum of 3 undefeated teams, and it could be less than that. So
it could be, yeah. So you're assuming that they're going to beat the median.
I said at the max, it could be 3.
Yeah.
1-1, we've got Jason Freeman and Josh, and then starting off 0-2, Jason Smith, Neil, Janelle, Drew, and Eddie in last place. So Drew, you're not in last yet.
No, but if I lose again, like I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Well, there's not. We can talk about waiver activity that happened. We got a bunch of people. Jawan Jennings got picked up. Tyler Johnson. Eddie picked up Malik Willis since he's going to need a starting quarterback. Josh outbid me for the damn Chargers. I wanted to have a second defense because I had only got down to 1. And I was like, nobody else is going to pick up a defense. So I put in a $0 bid. And then Josh got him from me. I was like, son of a biscuit.
Listen, I feel like
That's my fault.
You have the fab. Use it.
It's my fault. I should have put in.
You always tell me, like, I probably overpaid for. Who did I just pick up?
I don't remember. I remember you overpaid for him. Was it this
league? Tyler Johnson.
Oh. You picked up Tyler Johnson? What did you pay? $10, something like that?
$8.
Yeah, that's fine.
Which is fine. But like that you want Jawan Jennings $10. Like, like that if you want the guy, go get him.
Yeah, no, that was on me.
You have the fab. You always like this year my goal is to not have any fab at the end of the season.
Go for it, buddy. All right, trades. I haven't seen any trades come through, but I've been hearing about lots of offers going around. I know I've got one I'm mulling over right now, trying to make a decision. I've been in contact. I just haven't accepted or denied yet. I'm working on it. Other NFL news. Pat Freiermuth signed an extension with the Steelers. 4 years, $48 million. That's a pretty good contract. I wasn't sure what they were going to do with him. And then the Browns, I thought the Browns had some injuries at wide receiver. I can't remember. But
they just don't have any wide receivers.
Well, I mean, they got Cooper, Judy, and Elijah Moore. And
Judy had a touchdown.
Yeah.
Cooper dropped a touchdown. I mean, I don't think that he's not going to is not going to be the difference. Like, they need a quarterback.
Well, they got Kadarius Toney because they wanted another guy who could drop a touchdown.
Right. They need a punt returner? Why are they? The only thing he can catch. He can catch punts, but he can't catch anything else.
Maybe he's remember the Chiefs were trying him out at running back. Maybe they're going to do that.
They don't need a running back.
Nah, I don't know. So yeah. All right. Teams on bye next week. There are no NFL teams on bye. This is something we wanted to make sure we added so that you people are thinking about it when it comes week by week. So our matchups for next week, week 2, I'm going to start at the bottom, so I'm not the one who I say first. We got Janelle versus Joe this week. So 0-2 versus 2-0. We have Drew versus Josh, 0-2 versus 1-1. We've got Mr. Thunder from Down Under against Steve. Actually,
that's going to be a good matchup.
That should be a real good matchup. And the funny part was like Steve started off the week really hot with AJ Brown and Saquon, and he was like projected at like 160 something points, and then finished the week with only like 130 something. It was a pretty big surprise. Jason Freeman versus it's the battle of the Jasons. We've got a Jason battle this week, Drew. Only one Jason shall survive. Then we've got Neil versus Eddie. So we've got.
By the way, have we figured out exactly what Eddie's team name is yet?
I'm assuming you guys all guessed it and said that he loves Phoenix and he's not lying, which is ironic because then Neil's got Brokeback Mountain. So these two match up very well right now.
This is a match made in heaven.
Yeah, it's a docking heaven.
Yes.
And then we've got me versus Raph. The one who deserves to be 2-0 and the one who is shocking to be 2-0. Oh, snap. Hey, guess what? If Raph watches this before our matchup starts, is he now trying to make another bet with me too?
Hey, you start the betting off.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right.
I think I'm just gonna get a bunch of t-shirts made, and like you have to wear the raunchy t-shirt that I have created.
Nice.
We'll
See what we can do. All right. Well, that's week 1. I'm so stoked the season's going. Anything else you want to throw out there, Drew?
I was so happy for football to start, and now I'm just like, come on. But guess what? We have football tomorrow, so I'll be back on the bandwagon. It's all good.
Perfect. All right, man. Well, good times. Do this
Yes,
again
sir.
next week.
Next week.
All right, buddy.
Cheers.
See ya.